right, it's 1:01, so let's get started here. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Better Business Workshop series. Today, we've got a great topic for you. It's utilizing wage, benefit, and labor availability data to help your business stay competitive. And so we've got Jodie, Meyer, and Scott Ferguson from the Nebraska Department of Labor, their Office of Labor Market Information. And they've got a great presentation for you today. But just as a reminder, every third Thursday of each month, we do a different topic. And so got a lot of great topics coming your way in the near future. My name is Stan Odenthal. I'm the Director of Business Relations at Heartland Workforce Solutions. And I'll hand it over to Jasmine Cabrera, who is the Business Service Coordinator at HWS.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So a little bit about Heartland Workforce Solutions. We're the designated entity that receives the federal funds to promote and develop a workforce system that's responsive to the needs of businesses and career seekers, resulting in economic prosperity. And as you can see, we serve 3 different counties, which is Douglas, Sarpy, and Washington.
Cool. And, we offer a lot of great services to businesses, to job seekers, and to partner programs. And so our job center that we operate at 57th and Ames is a great connecting point to all of these great services that we offer. Also, our website at hws-ne.org. And so we offer a lot of great services.
And if you have not done so already, this is a neat way to be able to register your business for services. We are a nonprofit agency, so all our services are free. And so we try and just connect you with whatever your need is right now, whether it be hiring needs, needing to post jobs, attend career fairs, just be part of the newsletter that we send out just to keep updated on everything that's going on. This is a great way to do that. So you can scan the QR code there or find it easily on our website as well.
It's a cool little dinosaur in the middle of the QR code too there. Yeah, so as Jasmine mentioned, I mean, we are a nonprofit. We are that convener of workforce development programs here in the greater Omaha area. We're primarily funded by federal funds, which is fantastic. It allows us to offer all of these services for free to job seekers as well as businesses. So one of the things that we're putting out there that's a great resource for businesses is our newsletter. And so we do a monthly newsletter, talks about upcoming events, ways that you can connect your business with the services that we offer through things like employer spotlights, career fairs, and a number of different services that are available. And so this QR code on this page allows you to connect directly and subscribe to that newsletter that comes out monthly.
Along with that, you can find all of our social media links at the top of our website. We are a little newer on Instagram and TikTok. We did just post a new TikTok earlier this week. So if you haven't watched that, go ahead and scan that QR code and check it out, and make sure to follow us to keep up with other stuff that we're posting.
And then also something new that we've started is a Work With Us Wednesday. This is a program every second and fourth Wednesday of each month. And so if you're curious about more of the programs and services that we offer to businesses, this is an hour-long kind of orientation conversation with businesses that we make available twice a month to walk you through all of the cool programs and connecting points within Heartland Workforce Solutions, as well as our group of partners. And so the next one is coming up soon on August 24th. You can join us from 12 to 1 and get connected with us that way.
And then also just where to find us. This is our address. We have our website here. And then again, with the link here for you to register your business.
And a cool thing with that too is we just received funds through the city of Omaha, ARPA funds, to open up a new South Omaha location. And so next year at this time, we will have 2 locations, one in South Omaha and as well as this one on 57th and Ames. And so we continue to expand our services and have more points of accessibility. And so with that, we're going to do a couple poll questions before I hand it over to the presenters, but let me just launch these poll questions real quick. First one is this your first time attending an HWS Better Business workshop? All right, we got a few first-time attendees, so welcome. This is the Cool Club. Thanks for joining us today. Let me end this poll, and then I'm going to launch one more. And this one is about how did you hear about this webinar? Because as you can tell, we're trying to put more out there on social media, trying to get more connected to folks through various ways. And so let us know if you found out about this webinar through our website, through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, through Twitter, through just a Google search, an email listserv, or if there's another category. And if you chose other, like it'd be super helpful if you just wrote in the chat, like how you heard about us. Awesome. Cool. Good info. Thank you for sharing that with us. So as we move on to the presentation for today, we've got a good one for you. I want to mention that during the presentation, if you have questions, because we're in webinar mode, there's 3 different ways that you can ask questions. There's the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button, and that's probably the easiest way to ask a question. So you can just type your question in there. We'll make sure that it gets answered. You can also put your question in the chat, or if you really want to, you can raise your hand. There's a button for that at the bottom as well, and we can unmute you so that you're able to ask that question. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Scott Ferguson and Jodie Meyer from the Nebraska Department of Labor, Office of Labor Market Information for today's presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hi. I guess I'll start here. So Jodie and I are here from the Nebraska Department of Labor, the Labor Market Information Unit. And so we're here to just kind of share what we have available for businesses, for people interested in labor data. My name is Scott Ferguson. I'm a research analyst, and I do the labor availability study, which I'm going to go over in a bit here. A little bit about my background. I went to UNL. I have a degree in anthropology there. And then I have a master's degree in library and information science from Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, not the Wayne in Nebraska. And so I've been here for about 5 years, and I'm kind of in charge of doing the labor availability study. So I'll hand it over to Jodie.
All right. Well, I'm Jodie Meyer. I am a research analyst as well. I have been working at Department of Labor for 16 years now. So been here for a while. One of the big things I work on is the industry and occupational employment projections, but I also handle a lot of the data requests and do quite a bit of outreach from our office. So you may have seen me before or seen me at other meetings. And today we are going to talk about some wages, labor availability stuff that Scott works on. And you guys are actually only going to hear from me a little bit, and I'm going to let Scott do most of the work because I think you guys are going to be most interested in his half. A little bit on my background is I went to Wayne State College. I went to the one here in Nebraska, unlike Scott. And I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology, and I have a master's degree in social science education. So Scott and I both kind of have different interesting backgrounds on how we got where we are. And I think the diversity is great on our different types of backgrounds in our office. So without any other delay, I'll dig right in. So I'm just going to basically give you guys a little bit of a background, kind of what is labor market information, kind of what's a little bit of like what does my office produce, what does Scott and I do, kind of what goes on. So labor market information is a pretty big umbrella. It's basically any data or analysis that relates to the workforce. So when you're talking, it's a lot of things. We've got employment, unemployment. You probably hear the unemployment rate that comes out every month. That kind of is our big spotlight statistic that if you've heard of anything from my office, it's probably that. New rates come out tomorrow. There's unemployment, like I said, employment, unemployment, labor force statistics, wages, which we're going to talk about today, projections, which I could talk about forever because it's my favorite, demographics, business characteristics, commuting patterns. There's so much more. We are a federally funded state agency, so most of our programs get money from the feds, with kind of the exception of actually a lot of the work that Scott does. We have a little bit of money that does come from the state for that. And we're all kind of Bureau of Labor Statistics, Employment and Training and Administration is kind of where our funding comes from. So kind of why use labor market information? Why is it important for you as a business owner? There's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can track local, national economic conditions, learn future needs. Today, we're going to focus a little bit on that, see what area wages typically are. You can use this to adjust set pay for your employees, learning the demographics of your potential workforce, determining what benefits to offer. I know Scott's going to touch a little bit on that today as well. Guide employee recruitment efforts, establish business locations, learn the cost of living, and so much more. And I'm going to actually touch a tiny bit on cost of living as well today. So really big umbrella, lots of different uses you can use this for. We just kind of wanted to give you guys a couple examples quick. So I'm going to dive right in on the wage piece here. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of data that all comes from one of our many Bureau of Labor Statistics programs out of my office. This one is called the Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics, or OEWS. So what this program is it comes up with employment and wage estimates for close to 800 occupations for statewide. This all comes from survey data. So they survey a group of employers, basically just asking them, who do you have working? What are the different job titles? How many people work in those different job titles? How much do you pay them? And there's different panels of employers. It kind of rotates out. So an employer will only be on for so long. And we basically just put all of that data together and come up with some basics on the wages for an area. You can use this data to make decisions on pay rates. That's pretty obvious, but it's also just kind of nice to just kind of see like how you compare to others, how your industry compares, how your area compares. This data is available for Nebraska, the economic regions, the MSAs, and there is a little bit of county level. I'm going to focus on pretty much the economic regions and the MSAs today. But it is available at county level as well. The wage data is updated every quarter. We actually use some employment cost index to update that to kind of keep it a little more current looking. The employment piece though is done annually. This doesn't include a lot of the self-employed agriculture workers and private household workers, but it does include pretty much a lot of employees and employers in the state. So I did want to show you guys kind of just some of the basics for the Omaha MSA. And when we are talking the Omaha MSA, we are talking Cass, Douglas, Sarpy, Saunders, and Washington counties in Nebraska. And we do cross over a little bit into Iowa and include Harrison, Mills, and Potawatomi. And the data on this slide is for total occupations. All the wage data I'm going to show you guys is second quarter 2022, and the source is all out of my office. So I just kind of wanted to throw all my source notes on this slide, but that's the wages you'll see in the next few slides. I'll have the same. So the average for the Omaha area is $27.93 hourly, or $58,097 annually. Just a little quick trick on using this data to convert the hourly to annually. You can, or vice versa, you either divide or multiply by 2080. Because that's kind of an assumed set amount, and you can convert hourly annually, because there's some wages that you'll see for certain occupations that only has an annual wage or only has an hourly. So if you want to compare, that's just kind of a quick tip. I also included on here just a quick look at the entry, the median, and the experienced wage. Entry wage $13.73, median $22.27, and the experienced is $35.04. The entry is the average of the bottom third of workers, and the experienced is the average of the top 2/3. So that's kind of what we're meaning on entry versus experienced. We actually don't have any data to tell us like how long people have been working there and their pay there. So we kind of use just the way they're distributed. We're assuming that usually the longer you work somewhere, the more money you're going to be making down the line. So it's kind of where our terms come from there. Just if you want to do a quick comparison, I did include the state data there at the bottom. As you can see, Omaha is higher than the state in all of the different categories. Where the statewide average was 2648 for entry, 1344, median 1971, and experienced $33. I also did a quick look here on some of the major occupational groups, because here all of these wages, I had forgotten to mention that with the occupations, is we're talking when you're looking at occupations, you're talking about what people do. So you're talking about different groups, like everything is classified on kind of similar work responsibilities, similar duties, kind of generally you're working in kind of the same type thing, but these occupations can really be found in any industry out there. And so this is what they make for all of the industries they work in. We do have a little bit of pieces where we can kind of parse that through. If you ask our office, we can tell you how much a nurse working in a hospital makes compared to like a clinic and some of that. So that is just a piece you can ask us, but for the most part, we're talking of everywhere they work. So I just did the groups here, the major occupational groups. The way everything's classified is through the Standard Occupation Classification System, or SOC codes. And that's set nationally by Bureau of Labor Statistics. All states use the same coding. And that's kind of how the classifications are. These are the major groups, because it's just kind of a little easier to fit on a slide than trying to put a bunch of occupations. Food preparation, serving related, pay the least. The highest are those management. Other high paying clusters are healthcare practitioners and technical, legal, computer, mathematical, and architecture and engineering. Some of the other lower paying ones are personal care, service, building grounds, cleaning and maintenance, and healthcare support. So that's kind of a little bit of the look at the different groups. I also wanted to do a quick look for you guys on kind of how does Omaha compare to the other regions and the other MSAs on their hourly versus their experienced. I always think that this is kind of an interesting graph to look at, because as you can see, there's some areas that kind of start out a little bit lower, but their experienced wages are a little bit higher, or vice versa. You kind of start out a little higher, but you're not gonna in the long run earn as much. So I always think it's kind of an interesting thing to do. Omaha though is actually the highest paying in both the categories out of the different areas. So Omaha stays pretty steady. And it is above the statewide average, and all of the other MSAs and regions as a whole are below that. I don't think anyone's too surprised. Omaha, Lincoln, Grand Island, kind of in the MSAs. I gave you guys the bonus there of Sioux City. We don't often include Sioux City in a lot of our data, but we do have it in this piece. So I just kind of thought as a little bonus I'd let you guys compare. And then when you get into the other parts that aren't the metros, Northeast pays the most, where the Panhandle pays the least. But you do see kind of a difference there in those bottom three, especially of Mid-Plains, Sandhills, and Panhandle, kind of switch places when you look at that experience compared to the entry.
Hey, Jody, there's a question in the Q&A.
Yes.
It's related to wages. I'll go ahead and read that.
Yeah.
Looks like, how do you foresee the remote work trend affecting overall wages? After all, the cost of living for the physical office location may differ drastically from the remote worker location cost of living. Do you foresee policies being established that will base pay rates on worker location to bridge those gaps?
That is a good question. And I don't know if this is really the best data set to answer that, but I wonder if Scott might have some stuff kind of parsed out from labor availability that might. So I might kind of throw that question to Scott in the later half, if Scott thinks he can maybe have some insight.
Yeah, I might have something to say about that.
Yeah. So I'm going to let him cover that one, but thanks for letting me know. And thank you for the question. All right. So next, I just gonna want to show you guys where you can quickly find this data. So it's all on our AnyWorks website. And so you just go there, and then if you click on the labor market analysis section, you'll come to the LMI homepage. And we do kind of have some buttons there in the upper right-hand corner, and there is one that says occupational employment and wages, and it'll take you right to this. And then you can go in and do your searches and find the data you want. I also wanted to just quickly mention two other things that are important factors on wages, and that's living wage and cost of living. MIT has created this great living wage index that they do. And they have state, county, and metro data. It's nice. They give you kind of different compositions of different types of families, and it shows you kind of typical expenses and all of that for like if you're a child or an adult with one child, 2 adults both working, 2 adults, 1 working, you know, it has just kind of how many children, different things. And this is just to have a living wage. So I encourage you to go to the website and check that out and just kind of look at the data for the Omaha area on your own. Just kind of wanted to let you guys know that that was a resource that was out there. Also, a lot of times people are wondering cost of living and all of that. This is actually something that my office doesn't have any data that we produce on it, but you can get it through some outside resources. The Council for Community and Economic Research, or C2ER, does produce a cost of living index. You can get all of their full data and historical data sets from them. It is a product there you have to purchase, but there are a few websites out there that do provide this information for free and kind of give you a snapshot. There's CNN Money. It has kind of a basic calculation. That's the example here I have on the screen. And then there's bankrate.com has kind of more detailed, where you can do things like, you can see, you know, different things like a pair of women's dress pants and how the price is different, or the cost of bread, milk, things like that, healthcare, gas, all the different things. They have a few of those listed. So with that, I'm going to actually turn things over to Scott, where he will get into the labor availability studies and a lot of the work that he does.
Hi, thanks. All right, so the labor availability study is actually a relatively new thing that the Department of Labor has participated in. It was created in 2016 through a bill at the Nebraska legislature. So we are actually mandated by state law to carry out these surveys, and it is state funded. So it started in 2016, and we started off with a pilot project, I think right before then, and then it's been constantly evolving. And I think, especially in the last year or two, it's really hit its stride, and we are continuing to evolve it. So yeah, so it's a collaboration between a lot of different entities. It is done primarily through the Department of Labor, Labor Market Information Unit, so the unit that we work in directly. And we also work with the Department of Economic Development. And as far as the actual conducting the survey, we work pretty closely with UNL's Bureau of Sociological Research. They actually conduct our household surveys that we do, and the UNL Business Research Bureau does some analysis for us. And then we also get feedback and input from local economic developers, other community stakeholders, different organizations that show an interest in participating, and local governments and such. All right, so a lot of data is produced by the Labor Availability Study Project, and it's kind of growing and changes over time. So there are 3 main areas of information that are produced, the data that's produced. So on the employer side, we have the hiring and training needs. So that's information for employers. So that includes finding reasons for difficulty hiring and surveying those throughout the state, assessing the workforce skill level, and benefits. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to reach. And the main gist of LAS is getting data that you can't get anywhere else that's local or hyper local. So a lot of our data in LMI, we work in coordination with federal programs or really well-established data collection. But this is something that we have total control over, and it's something that we do to find the information that we think is falling through the cracks or just isn't available anywhere else. So through labor availability, we can assess like barriers to obtaining training, like why people might not be able to obtain training that they're interested in. And our biggest ones are important factors and obstacles when considering jobs. So why, why people may or may not take a job, the obstacles that they're facing, and when they're considering a new job, what factors they consider to be important. And then we also have information on commuting and teleworking. Teleworking, especially since the pandemic kind of changed things, we've really emphasized that, and things have really changed with that. And commuting plays a big part in just the design of the survey, and we have a lot of questions related to commuting. The skills gap is something that we really work closely with through UNL, through the Business Research Bureau. And they kind of do a more in-depth economic analysis of like surplus and deficits in the workforce and education sectors. So that's kind of a more high-level economic view of things. So just kind of give you a sense of how things are going. This is our this last year that we did. So our research year starts in July and ends in June. And so for 21 to 22, we focused on the eastern part of the state. And so our current strategy is to pretty much cover the major labor shed areas in the state. And last year we worked on the east, and right now we're working kind of in the middle of the state. Although we are doing Lincoln and Grand Island, we're kind of moving west. So, and then the next year we're going to be focusing on the western part of the state, and then we'll circle back and probably do the eastern part again. So kind of a 3-year time frame on that. So these are the cities that we did last year that we have all of our data on. So we have the northeast area, which is Columbus, Fremont, Norfolk, and Wayne. And then the southeast, which is Falls City, Nebraska City, Beatrice, and Fairbury. And then we did do the greater Omaha area. So that's kind of where we were last year. So a little bit more on the greater Omaha survey area. So as you can see, it's kind of an odd shape there. It's not based on counties or economic regions. It's actually based on commuting patterns and the likelihood that someone in a certain area works in Omaha proper. So it has its own special definition there. So what we do is we look at data from federal sources that's collected, and we kind of see like the likelihood that somebody who lives in Papillion would work in Omaha, or somebody who works in in a county in Iowa would cross over and work in Omaha. So this is the area that we established for the greater Omaha area. The darker area is strictly businesses. So we surveyed all businesses pretty much. We did do a sample of some of certain sizes, and so those are that's the area that we surveyed for businesses. And then for households, we also did that area, plus we did some of the areas in Iowa that come over. And so we conducted this survey through December to February of this kind of this year. And we got a total of 1,593 businesses and 1,189 households. So, excuse me. Yeah. So we work with UNL. Okay, we work with UNL and to kind of come up with who to send these surveys to. So they send out paper surveys to kind of random households in zip code areas that we kind of assign. And they send out, they have like the person who has their first birthday in the household. So it's kind of like this random way of just picking somebody in the household to complete the survey. And so we get a lot of retired people who complete it. People of different economic or employment statuses. So you might be employed or unemployed or disabled or retired. And so the area that we surveyed has a total population of over 650,000, and that's based on census numbers. And then an estimated total labor force of about 474,000. So that's kind of what we're looking at. The rest of the slides are going to be based on that area and that kind of demographic. About, just for a little context, about 75% of the respondents were from Omaha proper, and about 25% roughly were from those surrounding areas outside that make up that area. Okay, so we look at a lot of different things to try to find value in these surveys. So one of the major things that we look at is hiring difficulty and reasons that businesses are having problems hiring employees. And so 84.1% of employers who responded reported it was difficult to find workers for at least one occupation that they regularly hire for. And 71.6% of frequently hired jobs were difficult to fill. So a business might have several occupations that they hire. That's why those numbers are different, because they're measuring slightly different things. This chart gives you a sense of what we're able to do with the data and collect. So we have the top 10 occupation groups reporting hiring difficulty. So we have like installation, maintenance, and repair, and construction and instruction are the top two. So 88.9% of the responses that said that they were hiring installation and construction jobs. That's the percentage of difficulty, or who said that it was difficult to hire. And then on the right, we have the top 10 industries. And so occupations in the construction industry top the list at 90.5%, for instance, and accommodation and food service came in second at 89%. So we're able to kind of look at difficulty hiring overall, and then we can kind of split it a lot of different ways, either through occupation groups or industries. We could also look at the size of the business, how many employees they have. We could look at geographic area. We can look at a lot of different, we can cut it a lot of different ways, but these are the two, probably the main, the big ones that we look at. So this is overall the reasons for difficulty hiring that businesses reported. And always on the top is not enough applicants. And so 82.5% said that that they did not have enough applicants. And that's not too surprising. It also, we're not 100% sure what that means in the mind of the respondent, and what that means overall. When you say you don't have enough applicants, does it mean that just literally no one's applying, or you get lots of applicants, but just you're not getting the right people, so you're perceiving that you're not getting enough applicants? But that's a good kind of measure of the overall difficulty. But then we definitely do a deep dive into a bunch of different specific reasons for difficulty hiring. So, wage demands are too high, applicants have poor work history, unavailable for required shifts, language barriers, location of your business, available housing. So this is kind of a breakdown of all of the overall across all industries, sizes, everything in that survey area. So this chart is one of my favorite ones. This kind of just shows like the depth of how we can kind of analyze things. So I'm not going to go over everything that's on here, but just kind of to give you a sense of like what we're able to analyze and the type of data that we're able to provide you if you ask us. So here we have those same reasons for difficulty, and under the all responses column, those are the numbers overall. And then to the right are the five most common top responding industries, or occupation groups, I should say. These are the occupation groups, and the hiring difficulty numbers for those individual groups. Because just knowing the overall number might be good for somebody who's into economic development on a larger scale, but to actually help an individual business, they're going to be more interested in the occupations that you actually hire for. So we in the kind of the, not sure what color that is, the tannish color, those are the results for each of those occupation groups. And in the blue column is kind of the difference from the overall average. And so that kind of shows you how like the unique challenges that individual occupation group has. And in red is kind of like the most prominent difficulty, that kind of the outlier from the overall region-wide difficulty. So we have unavailable for required shifts for food preparation and service related occupations, and also sales and related occupations. So those are the most difficult to hire that are outside of just what's kind of normal in the area. So for food prep and serving related occupations, it's 30.2 percentage points more difficult to hire based on unavailability for required shifts. So you can kind of see what kind of the challenges are, unique challenges to people who are hiring for certain occupations are. And this is just one way of kind of looking at it and trying to get some data from that. So it really the value of this that we can provide is to just, if you have questions or want to look at what's unique to your business, we can do that. Okay, and we ask about how businesses are addressing their difficulties hiring. So we ask the question, what action has your business taken to increase the candidate pool for difficult to hire jobs? So businesses that say they are having difficulty, we ask them this question, and they tell us, what they're doing. So increasing pay, 90% of businesses who have difficulty said that they have increased pay for jobs. That's the most straightforward thing to do and most common. Then increasing benefits is somewhat similar. Reducing work experience requirements, reducing education experience requirements, and offering telework opportunities are other things. And with this, it really depends on the industry and the type of work to kind of see, the value in that, or to kind of get the overall picture. So for instance, offering telework is at the bottom at just 11%, but that also takes into consideration all of the occupations and industries where telework just isn't feasible. So we could also do a breakout of businesses and occupations where it would be feasible, and we could then do an analysis of that, which I think we've done. But it's just the kind of data that we have, and it kind of gives you an overall picture. On the right, we kind of extrapolate that out to the whole region. This is an estimate. It's not a census of any information, but it gives you a sense of things. So 66% of, or about 8,451 businesses in the greater Omaha area have increased pay to address difficulty, which is about 66%. The reason that it's 66% there, but then increasing pay is 90%, is because you might have multiple occupations in one business. And so it's just if they have one occupation that they've increased pay on, then that counts. So it gives you a sense that there's like over 8,000 businesses in the area that are increasing pay. And we also did that for reducing the work experience requirements. So you have this kind of population of businesses that are addressing difficulty hiring by reducing the work experience requirements. So that's something that we're able to kind of look at and give some kind of perspective on. Next slide here. All right, so benefits. We do have a benefit report that we did in 2020 and 2021, the winter there. We asked questions about benefits we did a statewide survey. So instead of just doing a regional survey, we did something statewide. And we ask questions, some limited questions. In the past, we've asked just, do you offer, I think it's cut off here at the bottom there. do you offer benefits to all, some, or none of your employees? So the legend here is cut off on the slide. So on the left, you have, like, for instance, paid vacation leave. 76.7% of businesses offer vacation leave to all of their employees. 13.7% offer it to some, and 9.7% offer it to do not offer any vacation leave to their full-time workers. And then we have the same for part-time. And we do have an entire report that looks at that in a lot of different ways based on the size of the business, how many employees are employed geographically, whether it's a rural or urban area, and which industry or and such. So that is a limited view of things. So this year, especially, we're adding several questions to try to really get a better look at benefits. And we're starting that with our Lincoln survey. So we won't have that data for Omaha specifically, but we will have it for a major metropolitan area in Nebraska, which is probably somewhat, similar as far as the likelihood of how benefits are offered. And so we're asking several new things. The length of time before benefits go into effect. So is it something that you get after your first month, or 6 months, or a year? We're going to know that on an industry level and the size of the business, and we'll have a lot of ways of looking at that. And then with retirement, we're asking how soon those benefits are vesting. So whether or not you have to wait a year, 3 years, some other time before you're fully vested in your retirement. And then with childcare and family and medical leave, we're asking specifically what types of assistance are provided by the employer, like childcare subsidies paid directly to employees, or on-site childcare, flexible employee schedules. We have a list of options there. So we're going to be able to know more about what's actually being offered, and what size companies and what industries are offering those benefits. And then with family and medical leave, we're surveying, like, how many businesses offer maternity leave, paternity leave, paid leave for adoption and fostering. So we really get to the finer detail on that. So that's something that we'll have probably in December or January. We should have that data for Lincoln, and then we're going to continue to ask those questions throughout the state, and then we'll circle back to Omaha, I would imagine, in the next few cycles.
Scott, there was a question in the chat. I think this is from a few slides ago. Do you theorize potential causes for these answers, or do you present the data alone for others to interpret? And I guess you can kind of take that question in general when it comes to the data that you're presenting, presenting that data for data purposes only, or making some interpretations of what's happening. How do you approach that?
Yeah, we don't do a lot of interpretation. Our skills gap report, it does go into a little bit more, I don't want to say speculation, but just kind of reasons that there might be these economic trends or hiring or skills gap trends. But we don't really make too many conclusions. We're really just here to provide the data and try to collect data that we think would be valuable. We do in our Nebraska Workforce Trends magazine every month. We do a little bit of a closer look, and so there might be a little bit more just by, like, presenting certain data and putting those together. It might paint a picture that we think is something that might be telling a story about why something's happening, or looking at something, but we really don't draw any conclusions or speculate or try to say why things are happening. So it's really just a matter of collecting the data that the public can use.
Another question that just kind of sprang to my mind from that last slide, looking at some of the cool different compensations, benefits that folks receive. Just thinking about bonuses, and we hear so much about like retention bonuses, sign-on bonuses, referral bonuses, even Christmas bonuses. I've never received one, but like, is there any data out there to show what percentage of employers provide any sort of bonuses to their employees?
I'm thinking that we may have asked that on our benefit report, or the benefit survey that we did in 2020. And I do need to clarify, this slide is actually specific to the greater Omaha area, from the survey that we did just this year. We did a statewide survey, and I believe there is a little bit more detail on that. I could be wrong. I can look into that. Yeah, we really we did look at whether there's hiring bonuses or like profit. I think there is something on profit sharing. So there's a little bit more detail there. So and that's on the statewide level. So at the end, we will give you a link to that report. All right, so one of the main things that we look at for the labor availability study is we look at a population of workers or potential workers that we call potential job seekers. And so that is a very specific definition. It's somebody who on a household survey has said that either they're an employed person who would accept a different position or accept new employment if the right opportunity came along, or somebody who's actively looking for a new job if they're employed. It also includes people who are retired, unemployed, disabled, who may re-enter the workforce if a suitable job is available within the next year, is kind of our guideline there. So we're looking at people who would potentially change jobs, potentially become new employees based on a variety of circumstances. And so that's not a population that really comes through in any other data set or any other source of data. So that's something that's unique to us. And so based on the responses that we got, about 43% of people 18 and over in the Omaha survey area are potential job seekers. So that's somebody who's 18 years old up to 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. And so 43% of respondents said that they were potential job seekers. And when we look at the data, we do weigh the data to match certain demographic characteristics. So if we always have, because it's a random survey, we always have retired people who are more likely to respond because they have more time, for instance. And so we do weigh those differently. So we try to get an accurate snapshot of the area. So this next section is kind of based on that area. So these are important factors for potential job seekers. It's actually split over 2 pages because there's so many different factors that we look at. So we ask if something's very important, somewhat important, or not at all important. So we have all these different factors that we can look at, like salary, paid vacation, things that are like more benefit related. But then we also have more soft skills, like learning new skills, levels of responsibility, how important those things are. And so what we can do is we can pair that with a lot of different factors, like what job they currently have, how long they've been at their job, how much they get paid. So we can look at it in a lot of different ways. So these are the top 12 when you add very important and important together. So these are sorted by adding just level of importance. So these are the top 12. And on the next slide are the next set of 12. So these are the, if you want to go on to the next slide, we have, these are the bottom 12. And an interesting kind of area there are the ones that are the ones that are most or least likely to be important. So for instance, tuition reimbursement, available housing, and accessible childcare. So accessible childcare is actually at the bottom of the list. But of course, if you have children, then especially if you have children under 5, we've seen, then that actually becomes something that's really important to you. So there's certain populations or certain geographical areas where the available housing or childcare are very important. So we can kind of cross-reference that with, we ask how many children they have, how many people are in their household, things like that. And so we can kind of get to that data. So on the next one here, this is a new question that we just started asking this year. We ask how satisfied workers, currently employed workers are with their jobs on a variety of different factors. So these are sorted by whether it's a very important, not kind of neutral, or I should say satisfied or not satisfied. So we have job security and stability. 35.1% of respondents said that they were very satisfied. 48% said that they were satisfied. 10% were neutral, and about roughly 6% said that they were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. So again, the legend's not showing up on that, so I apologize. And so we have a variety of different factors. At the bottom there, you see working from home, teleworking opportunities, and opportunities for advancement are at the bottom there. Those are the ones that people have the most dissatisfaction with. So what I did here was look on the next couple of slides. I'm looking at opportunity for advancement. I'm actually looking at that in a little bit more detail. So this is job satisfaction with opportunities for advancement by industry. So we can actually see like which industries employees are more or less satisfied with their opportunities for advancement. So if you work in manufacturing or retail or construction, you can see something that's a little bit more tailored to the occupations and circumstances of that industry. And on the next slide, I just cut it a couple of different ways by looking at how long an employee has worked there. And then I look at a very specific set of occupations. So by length of employment, you can see that if you've worked there less than a year, if you've been employed less than a year, you're likely to be a little bit more satisfied with your opportunities for advancement because you're just learning your entry level or the job that you were hired for. But we noticed that like after the first and second year, that's when you're kind of ready for maybe a new position, a new opportunity. And so if you don't have a lot of opportunities for advancement, that's really kind of when you feel that. And that kind of carries through roughly through most of the industries. With healthcare and social services, for instance, you can see that during that first year, people are pretty satisfied with it because I assume that they're learning their jobs and they're not quite ready for, to advance because they're in the middle of learning their job. But then in the second to kind of third or fourth, fifth year, that's when it goes down a little bit, but then it goes back up again, if you've worked there for 6 years or more. So different types of occupations, different industries might have a different way of kind of gauging that. And so if you're an employer, you could look at how you're communicating your opportunities for advancement, what they actually are, and kind of being aware of those general trends. And I'll kind of go through these last couple ones here. So obstacles to employment. So this is something where we ask workers, like, what is keeping them from changing jobs, getting a better job, advancing their careers. And so we look at a bunch of different factors here, reasons that people are not able to pursue new opportunities. So, work schedule flexibility. If you have a family, if you have a lot of responsibilities that you might not be able to the job that you have now might be working for you, and it might be really hard to find something that's equally good. So these are just a variety of different factors that we look at, and so we can cross-reference those with a lot of different factors, like where they geographically are located, what type of job they have. So this is all for the greater Omaha area. Okay, and something that we just started asking last year is kind of just to get a sense of like how willing a worker might be to relocate or move in order to pursue employment. So we asked So this is actually referring to other areas besides the greater Omaha area. And so we actually asked them, if you were offered a job in greater Omaha that met your most important criteria, would you consider accepting it? So these are the results from Fremont, Nebraska City, Columbus, Wayne, and Norfolk. And so for instance, in Fremont, 42.2% said yes, they would consider taking that job in greater Omaha, and they would probably commute. Whereas 10% said yes, and they said that they'd probably want to relocate. And so then I just add those up and you get 52% of the potential job seekers in Fremont would be willing potentially to take a job in the greater Omaha area. And so you can kind of see which regions you might want to draw, potential employees from. So it's an interesting way of looking at it there. And then on the right, we ask for the obstacles. This is a look at the a lack of local job opportunities in your area. So in Fremont, 59.7% of potential job seekers said that a lack of job opportunities in their area was an obstacle to them changing jobs or pursuing other employment. So you can kind of look at both of those factors, and we could actually look at, these are kind of looked at separately, but we could look at it in a variety of different ways. So that's just another data source that we have. And this is the last slide here. So on our website on AnyWorks, we have all of our reports available for all the different regions, all the different special statewide reports that we've done. We did a benefits report for the 2020 and 2021 years. And then we also did a special statewide COVID impacts and teleworking report, where we looked at a lot of teleworking details and impacts of COVID on industries and households. And we also look at labor availability data in Nebraska Workforce Trends. Periodically, we'll do a report. So we looked at teleworking in the greater Omaha area and the Northeast region. We kind of looked at them both separately and together to kind of compare those. And we looked at pandemic impacts on hiring overall, and then pandemic impacts on the manufacturing industry specifically. That was for Manufacturing Month. So kind of the bottom line is that we have a lot of data available, and we are more than happy to do like customized analysis of our data for you. So for your industry, occupation groups that you're interested in, geographies that you are interested in, we can put together, we can do data requests or put together a kind of customized report for you based on your questions if we have the data available. And if we don't, then that might inform us on what we can ask in the future. So that's kind of a general overview of the labor availability study and some of the results from the most recent survey of the greater Omaha area. Okay, and then overall, including everything that Jodie mentioned, these are where you can find the links to where you can find all of our data. So you go to anyworks.nebraska.gov, and under the labor market information area, you just click analysis. And then from there, you can find all sorts of things, including our publications link. And that's where you can find that there. And here is our contact information. We are more than happy to have you reach out to us with any questions that you have. I predominantly work on the labor availability study survey. Jodie works on a variety of things. I do too, but Jodie works primarily on projections and just all the different types of data that we offer. So feel free to reach out to either one of us, and we'd be happy to work with you on anything that you need from our office.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. And I noticed that we did have one question that you just answered about where to find those publications. So if there's any last second questions anyone wants to ask, we'll give you a couple more seconds to put something in the chat or in the Q&A. Oh, the remote work question. If you want to come back to that question about wages with remote work.
Yeah, so that's not something that we've specifically asked about, but I think we might be able to get at some of that data where we could look at a specific occupation or a certain industry and maybe see if the wages are different or if there are any differences in wages. I don't think we have a lot of insight into how that might look in the future. I know that there are a lot of reports out there and studies that are being done. So we might actually be able to do a little research for you and maybe direct you to some of those if you had questions, if you reach out to us.
Sounds great. I don't see any other questions coming in, but thank you, Scott. Thank you, Jodie. This has been incredibly insightful, great information, and please reach out to them as you have questions related to this. So thank you again, and hope that those that were in attendance today join us next month. We've got a great topic related to how to become a federal contractor and how to stay in compliance as a federal contractor. So thanks again.